Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're putting on our neurodetective hats to investigate one of the human brain's absolute most compelling mysteries. It's a phenomenon that has sparked, well, countless myths and sci-fi plots, but today, we are going to unpack the actual, hard science behind it.
Let's jump right in. I want you to try and recall a very specific, totally undeniable feeling. Have you ever walked into a brand new place, maybe a random coffee shop in a city you've literally never visited, and just felt an overwhelming certainty that you have been there before? Even though you know for a fact it is completely impossible, it's that uncanny, almost supernatural feeling of living a single moment twice.
Well, if you're nodding your head right now, you are definitely not alone. Research actually shows that a massive 60 to 80% of the population has experienced this exact mental glitch. And what's really interesting is that it tends to peak among young adults, frequent travelers, and highly educated folks. It's incredibly common. Yet for the longest time, it was just written off as something paranormal. But today, we know it's a very real biological phenomenon that we can measure and study.
Here's our investigation map for today. We're going to hit 1. The illusion of familiarity, 2. Glitches in the system, 3. The virtual reality experiment, 4. Inside the memory matrix, and 5. Resolving the mental conflict. Basically, we'll identify the illusion, test the theories, map your brain's circuitry, and finally crack the code.
Okay, part 1. The illusion of familiarity, defining the glitch.
So, déjà vu. It literally translates from French to already seen. It's that striking sense that your current situation feels highly familiar, but it's instantly paired with the rational realization that it has to be completely new. The crucial takeaway here is that it's essentially a momentary mnemonic conflict. An intense, undeniable feeling of familiarity is violently clashing with your conscious awareness of reality. You feel one thing, but your logic is screaming something else entirely.
Moving on to part 2, glitches in the system. Let's look at the prime suspects.
Psychologists have basically narrowed it down to two main theories for what causes this misfire. First up is the divided attention theory, sometimes called the cell phone theory. This idea suggests your distracted brain secretly records a scene, taking a sort of subliminal snapshot before your conscious mind even catches up. So when your full attention restores a split second later, the scene feels super familiar because, well, you actually did just process it subconsciously. The second suspect is the dual processing theory. This one proposes a microscopic delay in your neural transit system. Your brain processes sensory info through multiple pathways at once. If one of those pathways is delayed by just a few milliseconds, a single moment arrives at your memory center twice. That delay makes the moment echo, feeling like a memory from the distant past.
Which brings us to part 3, the virtual reality experiment and Gestalt familiarity. To get some hard evidence, cognitive psychologist Dr. Anne Cleary took this mystery straight into the lab, and she did something brilliant. She used 3D virtual reality to build two completely different environments, an aquarium and a doctor's office. But here is the trick. They were meticulously designed to share the exact same spatial grid and furniture layout. The fish tanks were swapped out for couches and reception windows, but the actual physical arrangement of the room remained entirely identical. So, by using this setup, Dr. Cleary was able to scientifically trigger the déjà vu illusion on command. Step 1. Participants study the first scene, the aquarium. Step 2. They get dropped into the completely novel doctor's office. Step 3. If the participant couldn't consciously remember the aquarium, researchers ask if they felt a sense of déjà vu. And guess what? They did. This proved that a forgotten memory of how a space is arranged, its spatial configuration, can prompt a sudden, super eerie sense of familiarity. Your brain recognizes the layout, but because you can't place exactly where from, you get déjà vu.
All right, part 4, inside the memory matrix. Let's look at the actual brain anatomy. I want to introduce you to the rhinal cortex. This is a tiny subhippocampal structure nestled deep inside your medial temporal lobe. You can think of it as your brain's overeager alarm system. Its main job is to assess general familiarity, but sometimes it gets a little trigger-happy. It can shout familiar even when the conscious, fact-checking part of your memory system, the hippocampus, is totally drawing a blank. It generates a really powerful feeling, but it doesn't have the episodic details to back it up.
So here is the anatomy of that misfire. Your temporal lobe processes the incoming scenery, your hippocampus builds the conscious spatial memory, and your rhinal cortex tags it with a feeling of familiarity. But when these regions fall out of sync, they generate a false familiarity signal. And we know for sure this mechanism is powerful because pathological malfunctions in this exact circuit are actually a really frequent symptom of temporal lobe epilepsy. A lot of patients experience intense, prolonged déjà vus just seconds before a seizure, which proves this phenomenon is deeply rooted in the physical wiring of these specific brain structures.
Finally, Part 5, Resolving the Mental Conflict. Enter the frontal lobes.
If your temporal lobe is sounding a completely false alarm, who steps in to stop the panic? How do we know it's just an illusion? Well, your frontal lobes swoop in to save the day. Specifically, your anterior cingulate and medial prefrontal cortex. These guys are your brain's rational detectives. Recent fMRI scans show massive activation in these exact regions during déjà vu. They are constantly monitoring for cognitive conflict. So when that false feeling of familiarity clashes with the absolute novelty of a new situation, your frontal structures step in, flag the error, and resolve the conflict. They're the inner voice of reason going, okay, I know this feels familiar, but we've literally never been here before.
Déjà vu is a phenomenological state that can be understood as a momentary mnemonic conflict. This quote from the latest imaging research just perfectly wraps up our investigation. Déjà vu isn't a glitch in the matrix. It's not a past life memory or some psychic premonition. It is simply a fascinating, split-second conflict resolution playing out across your neural network. It honestly just highlights how aggressively your brain works to cross-reference your feelings with cold, hard facts in real time.
So, the next time you walk into a brand new place and you feel that uncanny chill run down your spine, don't just brush it off. Pause for a second and marvel at the incredible biological machinery inside your head that's actively cracking the case. Your rhinal cortex just misfired and your frontal lobes are working overtime to keep your reality intact. Will you recognize the detectives at work? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and stay curious.